Valley Irrigation, and we have Bill Fidler with us, who's the managing director. Bill, thank you so much for giving us your time. I'm going to start right off, and I'm going to like hit into your journey of like being in Pakistan for over 20 years. I want to understand how that's been for you, and like the one thing that I want to press on is like the mental mindset change that you possibly struggled with in Pakistan. How has that come about in these years as well?
Okay, I'm going to spend just a little bit on before Pakistan. I've been working in the irrigation business since 1974. Okay, time at Belmont, and then I had an opportunity to go to Saudi Arabia to install machines. At that particular time, there was only one machine, one Valley machine in Pakistan at that time. And I was along with a team that basically took that one machine to when I basically left in 2003 to a total of population in the country of like 67,000 pivots, of which 30,000 were valleys. And so you see, we had a country that didn't have any agriculture development, and we took it to an exporter in 5 years. Yeah. So it was exciting.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. There was just, and the journey was so much fun. So the experience there was to go from just playing with one or two machines to delivering 3,000 per year. Okay, so we've been through the curve of where you can go from start to finish. I had a good friend, a Pakistani, he said, come to Pakistan.
Yeah.
And I looked at the geography here. You got this lazy river running down the middle of the country and all of the alluvial lands and soils and the opportunities here. It's like, this is a no-brainer, Bill. You were in the right place at the right time. And so coming here, there was one person who just couldn't help but take one pivot from me. And that just proved that I was in the right place at the right time. But that was just a flash, because this market is really, really tough. For the first 3 years, all we did was marketing. Yeah. All marketing, no sales, marketing, marketing, marketing. We met every federal, provincial, every farm organization, every crop organization, everything to get the information out. Luckily, at the time, Minval, by 2006, came out with a federal program for subsidizing HEIS. HEIS being high-distance irrigation systems. And pivots were key in that, and we were expecting Punjab to just go crazy over this, but it was Sindh who did it, probably because they have bigger chunks of land, etc. And so, our biggest start came from Sindh, and so we got a start. Unfortunately, in 2010 and 2011, you had back-to-back 100-year floods, which set back government programs. And the government programs are essential to get the base. And over the years, there's been projects here and there, and we're very lucky in 2016 when Nishan Agriculture decided they wanted to do a modern corporate farm. They brought in Western management. They did their research and came to us in the end, and we built the Nishan agriculture farms. They've got 4 of them now, and they're
these are the farms that are visible on the motorway, right?
Yes. Well, that's the second biggest farm.
Yeah.
Okay. They have 2 on the motorway now, actually, but those are smaller compared to the one by Crescent Mills. Okay, where they have 800 acres in one place, and they took the strategy of being a corporate farm. It's all modern equipment.
Yeah.
They brought in the expats.
Yeah.
What the expats do is they transfer the technology.
Yeah.
So after that, then we have other projects with like Samson's, who put in 9 machines so far, and other large-scale farmers that have put in some machines. And it's quite amazing because, today on cell phone, you can see what that machine has done for the last, ever since it was, every minute that it operated, and what they were doing with that. And it's a big technological advantage for giving the farmer the information to help him reduce cost, and probably more importantly, provide the crop with what it needs at the exact time. Because this is precision. Somewhere you will see these things that say about precision irrigation. That means you need to give the crop its nutrients on the right time. You need to give it water at the right time. You need to make sure that you don't put the water below the root zone, because anything that goes below the root zone is going to be wasted, because the plant's not going to get it. So all of these things, and today you're even looking, you will be looking at whether or not it's going to rain tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we're at a point where the market, definitely industries desire to get into corporate type agriculture, or corporate agriculture, or agriculture, however you want to say it. And they're doing it on their plans are fairly big, because you have big companies in Pakistan, and they see the demand is never going to go away. Everybody's got to eat. So, and the inflation, et cetera, it's causing prices to go up, so and people are going to have to eat. So one way or the other, the product is going to get sold. And so they may have, you're not going to have nearly the competition from the importers, because first they have to produce costs lower than yours, then they got to bring it in, and there's going to be transportation, duty, clearance, blah blah blah. But you can produce it locally. You're at a serious benefit, and they're here. So this is an obvious place that they would like to go. Your large institutions will be guiding, headed in the same directions. If they have any land holdings at all, they're interested in utilizing those unutilized acres to be able to produce food for the country. So everything is actually go right now, but the stopper at this particular point is the situation of the country. The importing of the goods is got everybody stopped, and the only way I see that Pakistan can get out of this is we got to export, and we can be really good at agriculture production, and we should be feeding our really water scarce nations around us. So this is something that's not, maybe it took us 20 years to develop the market. Okay, and my goodness, I hope it doesn't take us another 20 years to execute it. Okay, but this issue is going to have to be, this is a country issue on being able to balance of trade and reserve. And those things we can't control, but everything that we do, we can produce serious amounts of export.
Yeah.
If whatever we have to pay for the import of the items that we bring in, we will replace that multiple times by the amount we export. So if we're handcuffed on these kinds of issues, it's just going to slow down things. Patience is okay. I mean, I'm patient. And it's these things are going to take a lot of time to sort out, and one way or the other, it's going to happen. So we just got to wait. We're here trying to push it in the right direction where we see interest, etc.
On what you've said so far, in a particular moment in time where you see the institutions and the big corporates coming in, um, why, other than the fact that they have more capital to deploy, I do see a problem from an angle where land is expensive in Pakistan still in terms of the agricultural productivity they can give out. So how does the math work for the institutions there? Is it just a leasing model? And other than the capital deployment, why are the corporates more efficient? Are they using better techniques? Is it because of more data? Like, what are they doing better than the average farmer in Pakistan right now?
Okay, well, if you they Okay, your average Pakistani farmer who has 12 and a half acres, he doesn't have an agronomist on staff. Okay, and he tends to do what his father did, what his grandfather did. Okay, but that's changing. I have questions about social media, but there are some really good things about that because information transfers quickly. We have companies that have drones that do application of herbicides and fertilizer, et cetera. So you're talking about, there are instances that you can find in Pakistan where everything that needs to happen is already starting, and they may be struggling. Be sure to get the whole thing sorted out. It's going to be very difficult. A small farmer doesn't have enough resources. Even if he gets, let's say, a government subsidy is 60-40, and let's say his 15 acres requires a 3 million rupee farmer's share, that's a lot of money for that 12 and a half acre farmer. So he's held back. Held back. Now, okay, from the financing standpoint, I really am against agriculture subsidies on farm equipment.
Mhm.
Because if you give the farmer the equipment, he has less skin in the game. Okay. What I found has worked better is soft loans. Soft loans. And the farmer's got to pay it back, and companies like Valley Irrigation Pakistan can make sure that farmer's going to do that. They can cover the whole thing. Saudi covered the entire cost of the irrigation equipment with zero money for 7 years, 0% money for 7 years. And you know what happens when you do that? All of the money that you're putting into the fund just keeps building.
Yeah.
You got the payments from the farmers coming in, and anything more that you want to put into it makes it bigger. This is an efficient, easy way to do this, and I've discussed this a lot, and it just is rejected by the establishment. Probably the same establishment that's got you trapped today on how to get out of this mess. So if that would happen, my goodness, and especially if you have support. When you talk about you mentioned financing schemes, etc. That's all it takes to go. You will need companies like Valley Irrigation, many that have to stand behind that farmer and make sure that he is successful. Uh, I I have this saying that Valley uh, serves your crop. We serve the crop more than we serve the farmer. Our issue is that crop. We only have a little bit of time to fix it. Every time we're a little bit more delayed, yield is going to be down. Okay, so you need to have companies that are in the game that are looking at what they're going to do, and usually companies like that will, in the end, succeed.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not a place I'm looking for the buck and run. You gotta. This is not selling cars. Okay, it's too it's got too many things. Agriculture is a chain of all weak links. Any one of them can disrupt the entire process. So there are ideas, and if any of those could be implemented, there would be serious movement forward.
You think
But
on the yield side, the small acreage is the biggest problem?
no. Small acreage is the biggest problem for pivots.
Okay.
Okay, and the small acreage is the biggest problem for having specialist, professional assistants. You get to have a few pivots. You got to have an agronomist on site. So unless the small farmer's son or daughter has gone to school and become an agronomist and stays current with everything, because those things gotta change. We can't do what Grandpa did.
Yeah.
Okay, things have moved beyond, and and the changes of climate change. Climate change is actually climate change is like the moving of certain areas of how the weather is in this area from here to here and from here to here. So like one place where you were barren, now you have lots of rain.
Yeah.
And some places where you're at an agricultural powerhouse, it's got no water. So that is how climate change. Now, it moves it from one place to other. And overall effect, this is an algorithm that is got, I don't know how many things in it, because the weather is just next to impossible to
So I think
figure.
it wasn't.
Cooperative agriculture is definitely a solution. Okay, but we have to have the most difficult part about this, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is getting on ground examples working.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you go to, it's difficult to get Pakistani farmers to work together with their neighbors, and I don't know why that is, but that we need to create a environment of success to where those old thinkings don't make sense anymore. You know, they got to understand that once they have a 132 acre pivot, and maybe there's, okay, let's say it's 12 and a half into that is how many, 15, I don't know, somewhere 10, 12, and they're working together and their profit has jumped. You know, what do you want to be? Unfriendly to your neighbor and make this much, or you want to be friendly with your neighbor and make double? What do you want to do?
Do you think that over the years you've been able to compile enough projects that could be termed as successful to then now market that as an example in terms of to entice new consumers? Does that make sense?
Well, it has to be. That is, if you want to do anything other than corporate and institutions, you're going to have the population do that. Now, you got X amount of farmers that have 150 acres or more. So that's your target market because they got one and they don't need, even though they need money, they're not going to be under a program like World Bank or whatever it is. It's going to limit you to 12 and a half acres per beneficiary. Um, and they can do that. But even those farmers are cash strapped. When you ask, they got to work to come up with the money. For corporate, they run the numbers, they got the financing, and they can go. You know? So, but the little guy, but the individual doesn't have that opportunity. And the smaller you get, once you get farmers that have acres less than what will actually go on a pivot, this is where you have to have them work together. Now, the first ones, the first ones will have to be staged.
Okay.
Okay, because we're not going to get them to do that. It's not going to do that. We can have them watch, and they will see the first one running, and then after the crops come in, you can set the guys down and say, "What do you think about this?" And sooner, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time, and there's going to have to be someone, some company, some organization, some whatever that's going to have to guide them to that success. If you come to a failure and everybody's fighting each other, you better hide it.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to have success. You cannot move forward without success.
Do you think that impact will come through? You have a bunch of corporate farms running, right? Like Nishat
Yeah.
and all of the others that you've mentioned. Do you think there's small scale farmers around those areas that have possibly been impacted by what they've been able to see?
You know, well, they can see. They can see. It's not as I haven't been on site, but I saw it in Saudi Arabia where large scale farms went, and they'd all put a chain link fence around everything. You know, and the local Bedouin farmers, their fingers were through the chain link fence looking through. So what did the big farmers do? They put in a training center in the middle of their farm, and they opened the doors and gates to everybody to come and see. Anybody can do it now. So Pakistan is not Saudi Arabia. You're already developed. You got 41 million acres in the Indus Basin irrigation system. You got another 20 million acres of desert land that's being unutilized. You know, you got all kinds of opportunity. You've been farming for ever, centuries. So you already have a base. It may be more difficult to change it here because you have the experience. I have met farmers and explaining how you can be more efficient at growing and saving water and all these things. Saving water is probably not in the mind of the farmer.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as he's upstream enough. The guy at the tail end of the canal, he's going to listen to you because he's got trouble. So um, getting the first ones to be successful will then replicate. Look, I mentioned before how Pakistan's really good at some stuff, electronic stuff. When it comes to IPOs, you can make a new housing society with a drop of a pen. Huh? Why don't we make IPOs on corporate farms? Huh? See, so there's all kinds of opportunities just go in many directions to take what you do best and let you use that method.
Yeah. And in terms of like your experience with government, uh, how has that been over the years? Do you think it's evolving, and not just the federation, but there's a lot of non-governmental organizations and other institutions in the country. How do you think that whole mesh is coming together for the future, gearing up for higher productivity, hopefully? And to your point, I want to raise the element you raised about 20 million acres being unused right now. I want to also assess how we can bring that into the realm of things.
Okay, I have a short-term memory, but I'm serious. First part of the question
Was how, your experience with government,
okay.
and how do you think that's evolving?
All right. Well, um, the original programs with the government, all of the donor organizations want to support the itty bitty farmer. Okay. And they're not thinking about. They think that you throw them the support and it's going to work. But we already discussed he doesn't have the professionals, or maybe his kids are not into have the education to take the farm to the next level. A lot of them are, but there's a lot of the farmers that don't have that. So he's gonna so that whole thing of the 12.5 acre farmer is not really feasible.
Yeah.
Okay. So now the cooperative, okay, Minfall and others who had a little foresight said, okay, maybe a family owns land. Okay, so we will allow you to take family members with their, at that time it was 15 acres, and put them together to put in a pivot. Okay, so now the paperwork should be for one machine, but it's going to be for 15. So our paperwork stuff, you should see the amount of paperwork we do and the follow up that we got to follow with the department to get papers to move from this desk to that desk. It's not, that would be an area you should make electronic. That would make things a lot better. So now government, when you if you're looking at the horizon of what Pakistan needs to do, and I'm not sure that was the question that you asked, but regulations, not only for subsidy programs, et cetera, you got to look at the overall landscape. If you have limited water, in Pakistan, the water is becoming limited every day, and you have some people that are very efficient at it, and some people that are wasting water and waterlogging their land.
Yeah.
Okay, someday somebody's going to have to accept the fact that water needs to be charged for. If you say that today, everybody goes nuts. Okay, but there's got to be incentives and non-incentives, non-incentives to do bad and good incentives to do good. The program could be sorted out to just target the amount of water that's wasted, make people pay for it. This is going to take a decade.
But in terms of climate adaptation mechanisms that we need to adopt, is water the only thing that you think requires focus in Pakistan, or do you think there's other angles to look at as well?
That's a good question. Well, water is the obvious one, okay? And you have, we have some other practices here that makes me cringe. We also have, we should have worries about air quality, okay? And then we should be thinking about our agriculture processes on what it's actually doing to maybe air quality and, stripping the benefits of what we would do if we should process something the other way. Why do we burn wheat and rice straw? All of the good things go up. We're taking it from our soil. We're killing our bacteria. We are doing harm to our soil. Okay? Maybe it takes a little bit more work to get it in, but the benefits from this, the soil is everything. And Pakistan has a tendency to take more from the soil than they put back. Okay, so over a long term, even though you've been doing this for eons, sooner or later you have soils that don't work so well for you anymore. And your soil is your life. I am really, really excited about a new thing that's come along. I mean, I remember composting in my garden and all of those kinds of things. But today they have regenerative agriculture where we see that work uh, producing the bacterial tea that we apply in the center pivot. The soil becomes more alive, and the nutrients that are required for the plant are coming naturally, reducing the input, the commercial inputs, urea, all of these things. No, okay, certain of these things, reducing it by 50%. Now, can you imagine you take, let's say, your urea content and you reduce it by 50%? Would that make you happy? So, and you know what? Even the little guy can do this. So this is going, and we're looking at why we're not pushing that from the get-go, and even the start, because reducing costs and building soil, your soil is, the farmer's soil is his life. And you can't mess with that. So air burning, I at the particular moment I can't remember anything else. That's a big one. Burning off your residue.
And I think spending 20 years in Pakistan has really uplifted your passion. You're more passionate than most Pakistanis I know about everything here. But
Well, you should be. Why not? Man, it's a great place.
I hope Pakistan listens to you more often and we get somewhere. Thank you.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having us. It's been my honor.